Welcome back to Spearfactor. Today's guest is Mr. Brett Leabel. He's originally from Wisconsin, actually. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Home of Rittenhouse. Good times.
Dude, yeah. 100%.
And then I guess Florida and now Texas, correct?
It was Colorado. I wish Florida. Maybe that'll be next. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to the show, sir. And let's just get started. You are fresh, literally less than a week, I think, out of Nationals, the Freshwater Nationals go ahead.
It's Worlds.
Freshwater Worlds. That's right. Freshwater Worlds.
Yeah, we had 10 different countries show up, man. It was sick.
Where all were they from?
We had I should say the reigning champions from Worlds in 21 is Ukraine. And with everything going on, we hoped they were going to make it, but then it just like the intensity intensified or whatever, and they couldn't come. So Ukraine is reigning champion, but they couldn't make it to defend their title. So this year we had teams represented from Italy, Singapore, I think Australia sent 3 teams. New Zealand had 3 as well, I believe. UK, the women's diver from UK won. And where else? I don't know. It's 10. Guam it was there. Even though they're a territory, they are a country of their own. So, yeah, it was pretty cool, man. It was a great tournament.
Oh, I don't know if you met a couple of my buddies from Guam were there. Have you met Chase at all, or
Chase Weir? Yeah, Chase Weir was there, and then Michael Genevu. I don't know. It's a hard sounding name. But yeah, Guam represented, man. They were awesome.
Cool. So now you were there kind of mentoring, or you weren't there competing, right? You were guiding?
That's right.
How does that work?
Yeah, so little quick backstory on that. I was Nationals partner with Nicole Burko last year, and she came up from Florida, and Mike McGuire, who's the founder of Freshwater Worlds tournament, as well as Darren Shields of Weddy. He owns Weddy. The two of them founded Freshwater Worlds. So McGuire reached out to me and said, hey, we got Team USA diver Nicole Burko, who you had on the podcast last episode, I think. No, one before Tim Hatler, 2 episodes ago. And he wanted me to dive with her because I knew the lake and whatever. Plus, I would be a good pair for mixed doubles. And she needed to do well because last year's Freshwater Nationals was also the USOA Nationals. And USOA Nationals rotates, in 5 regions. So Northeast, typically like Rhode Island, whatever. Southeast would be somewhere in Florida generally. West Coast, California, Hawaii, and then Freshwater. So Freshwater World Nationals last year was the USOA Nationals. So Burko needed to do well to stay on Team USA to compete in Spain this year. She was my partner, and she kicked butt, man. She ended up it's a whole controversy. She ended up first with the total amount of points. She set the women's lake record. I know when she spoke about it, she was pretty reserved, but she did a great job and killed it, man. And because of that, we qualified together as a mixed team for Worlds this year. But my buddy Matt Suter, #White Orca, is he's a better competitive diver than me, and he ended up missing the boat, the team, because the previous tournament he had some boat trouble, go figure, and got DQ'd. He didn't make it back in time to count as fish, so he got DQ'd, didn't qualify, which is crazy because he's the second in the world. So he was the number 2 man individual in the world behind the Ukrainian diver at Beaver Lake in 21, and he wasn't invited. It was such a bummer, and so I said, you know what, you're a good buddy of mine out of Vegas. How about this? You dive with Burko. You guys will be like a powerhouse to compete together, and I'll drive the boat. And I feel like I'm one of the best boat drivers in the whole world, and wanted to show it. So we kind of made the dream team this year.
All right, so that's a big claim, and actually want to talk to you about that because we have talked about this before as far as driving a boat. But before we get into that, so how did Nicole do? How did the team do last weekend?
So, dude, team took fourth. We were sponsored by Killshot Life. The year previous, we were sponsored by Rocked Up Reef, which is a Florida apparel company. Killshot Life from Instagram fame. This year, we reached out to them. They gave us a cool sponsorship deal, and team took fourth. It should have been third, but I broke a stringer of suitors. He brought a stringer of fish to the boat, and I was hauling it on, and I thought these are pretty heavy carp on a rough fish day, and broke a stringer, dude, and 8 fish got away. And we missed third by 7 fish. So that was the decider.
Wow. That's tough. Yeah. I guess that's competition though.
Yeah.
Jeez. So that's how so fill me in a little bit on the freshwater. Is it for carp? I mean, is it just by the numbers? That's how that works as far as the freshwater competitions?
We do it different ways. So full disclosure, I'm on the board for National Freshwater Spearfishing Association. So if you own a spearfishing related company, you've probably talked to me. I'm begging for support from you guys. And we've had some amazing sponsors, by the way. Can't do without sponsors, and can't do without great competitors willing to travel. And we've been blessed to have both. So this tournament, it became a 2-day tournament. Day one, we game fish. So game fish consisted of striper, walleye, catfish, and and we sort of capped it. So you could shoot 8 walleye, 8 catfish, but an unlimited number of striper, because in that lake the striper have kind of like crazily overpopulated. They're not a native species. They were introduced, and they are taking over, just rampaging the forage base. Second day, we did carp only, and carp only was just a number count. The largest fish was a decider between places, but the numbers were the scoring system. So 1 point per fish. And why we went ham on the carp is because they're also an invasive species. They're in Lake Powell, and they do like terrible damage to the aquatic plant life they kind of root around like invasive hogs do down in the south. And so they do terrible damage like that. They're a filter feeder. They filter out all the invertebrates that the gizzard shad and other forage base use. So they eat a ton of food, and they destroy the habitat, and they have really no predator, right? Like they're just this giant bottom fish that we showed like 4,000 of them, and it doesn't even dent them. It doesn't even slow down the breeding. It's insane.
So last year, if I remember correctly, seeing pictures, was there some sort of incident last year where they found like all the carp like on the side of the road or some shit? Didn't something like that happen? Or
yeah, dude, it was nonsense. So that was actually 2 years ago at Lake Pleasant. In Lake Pleasant, we did carp as well as the shad, the gizzard shad. We're always trying to repurpose the fish, right? And so we found a herpetology recovery center to come and take only the shad. They didn't want the carp. They wanted only the shad to feed to their alligators that are recovering there, which was really cool. So they came, took all the shad, and then the carp, we just hired out a local contractor with a dump trailer to haul them off. And the dude like took our money, and instead of going all the way to the dump, he decided to, pick like a neighborhood with a lot of construction and empty lots, and just boom, dumped them right there under the cover at night. Saved himself the dump fees or whatever, and made us look like complete assholes. So this year we begged, plead, and borrowed, and got like the mayor of Big Water to compost them. So he took them up to his place. His property has some acreage, has a big composting pit going up there, and then it's a huge native Indian reservation and around the area. So the local community is welcome to come and grab the organic compost from him to mix into hopefully their home gardens or whatever. So we turned a real black eye into something positive.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, because I just saw a picture and I remember seeing that going, oh, somebody screwed somebody.
Oh yeah, it was in the news. It was definitely that made the news, man.
Was
We
it?
talk about it every meeting when we're
No.
planning these events, man. It's insane.
Oh God. Yeah, that's bad. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yep. No. And next, while we're at it, next Freshwater Nationals. Well, while everybody's still fresh, thinking about it, next Freshwater Nationals will be in my hometown area. It'll be in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So we just got the final kind of sign off on that. And because that's my home area, I've got a good logistics network as well as a little family farm. We can compost them ourselves on our farm. So we got good logistics, a good dump truck operator who's not going to dump them on the side of the road and take them up to the farm.
Yeah, good dude. So Brett, how does a guy from Wisconsin end up spearfishing?
Yeah, actually, like not I hate when everybody gets into the how did you start spearfishing story on these podcasts. I'm a
I
huge
know.
listener, by the way. Like I listen to all your episodes, and that's how like the last 3 episodes in a row, my name came up, and I was like, all right, dude, I got to get on this. I got to figure it out. Like maybe you had one in between, but Jake Lord said my name, Tim Hatler, and Nicole, and I was just like, all right, dude, I got to call this
Yep.
guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, not to make a long story short, like basically fresh water is everywhere, right? Like 70% of the United States doesn't live anywhere near the coast, like 5 hours to the coast or more. So, but there is fresh water everywhere. And that's where I lived in Kenosha, right on Lake Michigan. My buddy's dad was one of the original like OG scuba instructors. And he had a scuba shop that we would just raid. And we figured out we legally allowed to spear panfish in Lake Michigan. So that's what we did, man. Grabbed a pull spear and just started going ham on them. And, made some awesome fish fry, made a lot of friends that way. And then when I could travel, I did to Bahamas, namely at first to do saltwater. And, from there, just the passion continued. And so now I try to do like as much saltwater as I can. That's the next question. Do you like saltwater or freshwater better? Obviously saltwater, but here I am in Texas. I'm 8 hours to the coast. I'm 8 hours to anywhere. It seems like, man, it's a geographical oddity.
What are you doing in Texas?
I came here for work. I got some buddies that live here. It's a good place to work, actually. Paul Rodriguez from Hot Rod Spear Guns, I think is one of your show sponsors, and awesome, all around awesome guy. He was down in San Antonio working, and then now he's up in Albuquerque. So on the way to the Nationals, I stopped by. He donated a super awesome gun. Like, garage shop like everybody. And hell, Jay Rife started his garage, he'll admit to that. And GR Tar, the same thing. Red Tide Spearfishing. He's also started his garage, and look where those guys became. So Paul's doing the same thing, making custom dope spear guns. He's actually got one for me in the works right now as well, a Traveler. I'm really pumped to get for before National Spearfishing tournament in Hawaii in Kona in 2 weeks. So come on, Paul, get me that gun, buddy.
Yeah, I think I know he's a sponsor, but I think his travel gun is insane. And I wouldn't like endorse it as much as I do, I guess, if I didn't believe in it, but like his shit is on point. And then like everything, right? If there's any issue at all, he's like, just send it back. I'll give you a new one. Like there's no problem.
Yeah, dude, total works of art. Like I've been a woodworker my whole life as well, and the dude is dialed in. Like I told him the other day at his shop, I was like, bro, I know, it feels like a thankless job. You're in there just listening to podcasts on the earbuds, cutting on the table saw or whatever. But like, he's really producing full works of art in a little shop, and I think he's got a waiting list, and he deserves it. Like, because his stuff is so well known. Actually, one of the guys at Nationals had one of his guns. I got to play around with it. It was a travel gun, and I think it was like 120, which is a little long for freshwater, but it was fine, flawless in the freshwater there in Lake Powell.
Yeah, that's what I have, the 120 centimeter travel gun, and I just use it as exclusively as my permanent gun now. Just because it's so versatile. And then, yeah, it's just it works. Period. So
Yeah. No, I got
yeah,
he's making 120 centimeter roller for me, Traveler, and then like 155 3-band. So it's gonna be a really dope Hawaii, reef blue water mixture gun. But I'm really stoked to take it down to the national tournament in Kona and give it a workout.
cool. Yeah, that's so when is that? You said that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the tournament, I leave June 8th, and then I come home on the 18th, and the tournament's like the 16th or something. It's a Thursday. It's a one-day invasive tournament. Calvin Lai Jr. is putting it on, and Cal always comes to our freshwater events. So him and Big Isle Boy, Justin Lee, are expected to do really, really well. Obviously, it's their home turf. They're going after just Roy as the tournament goes. And, there's like Roy and some other snapper, just the invasive stuff. So those guys are going to just wipe the floor with us. But me and like 4 other freshwater guys are heading out there just to, enjoy the scenery, of course, as much as the tournament.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, those guys are Justin, yeah, he's pretty good, huh?
Jay Lee, yeah, dude, he's such a
Yeah.
good guy too. And like that's the fun thing about seeing these guys. Like they always say don't meet your heroes, right? And you're like, yeah, don't meet your heroes because they turn to be assholes or whatever. But the spearfishing community is full of super great heroes. Like I already mentioned, Red Tide owner GR Tar. He won Athlete of the Year last 2022, and we presented the trophy to him. In fact, Jay Lee himself gave him the tournament at our event, which was super cool. Justin Lee, super nice guy. I mean, you couldn't say enough good things about him. Just an all-around great guy and a great sportsman. Calvin Lai from Hawaii, Bruce Ayu from Hawaii, Hanalei Adric from Hawaii. All these guys come to our little freshwater events, and you're like, dude, what do you guys do this for? You live in Hawaii where it's beautiful diving. Why would you come to the Green Merc? And it's just so much fun, man. It's just so much fun to see your friends, meet up with everybody. It's easy diving. It's 30 foot or less. Like for the most part, it's just a ton of fun.
It sounds cool. Everybody I know I've talked to about it just says it's a big party and
Yeah,
like as far as even just having a good conversation with everybody and meeting these people.
incredible.
That's one thing I think about the spearfishing culture, as in the guys that are, I guess, you said heroes, but like the guys that really stick out, I think out as more than any other sport. They're all, I mean, the little interaction I've had with some of them, but the ones that I have had a good conversation with are all just super good guys and girls, like just normal
Incredible.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had Lauren Sarasu on our boat. She's a huge Instagram following, and her boyfriend Jose Licardo was competing for Italy. His parents have Italian passports, and he grew up between there and Venezuela, I guess. And he dove with Eugene. I'm gonna butcher his name. It's like Tamishkakin from Russia. And Eugene's been living in Miami along with Jose Licardo in Miami, who's Lauren Sarasu's boyfriend, and Lauren drove boat for him. So like these 3 IG legends on the boat with me, just down a couple boats down on the houseboat. We stayed on houseboat in Antelope Marina, which is really cool. A couple houseboats down was Darvel McBride and Fernando Gutierrez, and who ended up winning. They're OC Sparrows. Fernando was one of the founders, and super cool guys. And Fernando and Darvel ended up winning the whole dang thing. And then two houseboats down the other way was like I said, GR Tar of Red Tide, Ben Furtick, cool dude, and Mike Ban, a freshwater guy out of Colorado, who was their captain. And it's just so much fun, like you said, a party atmosphere. Though we went to bed hard to party when you go to bed at like 9:30 because you're wiped out from diving all day.
Yeah, it sounds like me every day, I guess. But that's what I was getting old.
100%, man.
Yeah, yeah. So, you said you're on the board. Like, who's all on the board, and what are the things that you guys do? Like, just being on a board, you just plan on like, what is it all responsibility that you guys have by being on the board?
Yeah. So, the board is headed up by Mike Livingston of Utah. He's the president, and then we have a host of vice presidents. In a typical corporate structure, I guess we all have our own little duties. Kenny Western's Utah, Mike Kennedy's Utah. He's also on Team USA as well on the men's team. He made it to represent Team USA in Spain from Freshwater. So coming to Freshwater Nationals, and you qualify for Team USA by diving well, and as well as myself and one other diver out of Utah is Greg Hall, and then there's the OG Mike McGuire, USOA Athlete of the Year 1990. I love to rub that in. He was Athlete of the Year like when I was 10 years old. So that's our board right now, and we are 100% volunteer. Everything we do is we're a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit, so every donation is a tax write-off, and we push freshwater agendas. We try to open spearfishing up and to all states, and get regulations reduced so we can have hook and line the same as spearfishing. And that's kind of our thing. And we do it by hosting these tournaments, bringing awareness, of course, and the big tournaments. And we have regional tournaments as well. And our Instagram at National Freshwater Spearfishing is kind of the hub. So everybody finds us there or on Facebook. And then they go to our website, nationalfreshwaterspearfishing.org. Boom, they find out about us. You reach out, we hook you up. We try to make it as fun as it can, as inclusive as it can. So come from California, come from Florida, whatever. Reach out. We'll give you all the logistics you need. Where to stay for our events. Boat captains, etc. Like, we try to make it fun, so it's just you can come and enjoy yourself, have a good time diving. It's competitive, but it's not like stupid competitive. People are sharing. People are giving you gear suggestions, etc. It's way more fun than maybe what you've heard about tournaments in the past.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't heard too much. But that back to the freshwater agenda, when you're talking about like getting other states to open up about spearfishing, kind of make it the same as regular fishing. I've kind of just recently been aware of that when you talk about like the Midwest and you look at some of the states. And what are the biggest arguments, or what are the issues that you run into with trying to is it just people aren't, it's, to me as an outsider, it just seems like people aren't even aware that that's even a thing. So they have spearfishing illegal, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you live on the coast, it doesn't, spearfishing is part of life. But when you're inland, hook and line is where it's at, right? Like, nobody thinks about spearfishing as a recreational form of angling. And so, like say Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan, for example, like recreational hook and line fishing is a huge form of tourism because they have the walleye, the pike, and the muskie. And that's kind of like those fish of lore. And so people get really sensitive when you're like, yeah, I'm going to go spearfish. And they're like, oh, you're just going to kill all of our fish. And it's like, well, we're going to kill some and eat them. But like, other than that, like, how is that any different than anybody else? Like, if hook and line guys can keep 5 fish and eat them, like, what's the difference if spear fishermen keep 5 and eat them, right? But it's just sensitive. Like, they can catch and release, and we just spear and eat. So there's no such thing as catch and release in spearfishing. So it's a lot of advocacy, and my buddy John Dirtka over there in Michigan, he got Michigan to open up from just rough fish and catfish to include walleye, pike, and lake trout last year, and is going off to a roaring success. They do get a little pushback, but there's been tons of research on it now at this point, and like, they're not putting excess pressure on the fish. They're, one of the smaller end user groups, and hopefully using that success story will help us to open up other states so more people can enjoy spearfishing.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it reminds me of like what's going on in other places, and for us down here in Baja, that negative connotation with spearfishing, where it's like, oh, people forget about the whole selective part of it. But yeah. So when you said he's managed to do that, how do you guys manage to or is it letters to congressmen? Is it like how are you trying to get the word out?
Yeah, think smaller, man. Like, like think local. And the same thing with national politics and national news. Like we get so wrapped up in what's going on nationally, but like think small, think local. And so we start with just like getting a bunch of people introduced to the sport that then band together to enjoy it. And then you take that small group of people and they have now, you know, a little club going on and they have some recognition, they get more and more. And that builds this like sort of grassroots movement. Reach out to your local DNR agent. And so you reach out to the local Department of Natural Resources guy and you say, hey, I'm spearfishing. Me and these 10 other guys, we're a club. And you sort of like toot your own horn, you know, and you just kind of prove yourself to be worthy and respectful and a great end user. And then that grassroots movement builds. And that's how you then get your agenda, you know, get your project on the agenda, then they vote on it. So the DNR are just, it's private, man. It's not even like I know it's government, but it's not huge level like call your congressman government. It's so small. It's like 5 people making decisions, and if you don't get in front of those 5 people and kind of let your voice be heard, they just kind of make decisions without your input. I know California is seeing a lot of these negative regulation impacts, and it's like every so often you see something on Instagram like go call and join and call your guy and do this, write this letter, sign this petition. And that's totally the way it works. Sign the petitions, call the people, do the thing. And then by all of us doing that, our voices get heard, right?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's definitely have like a selfish, I guess, interest in this, just looking at like other places to live in the country. And it's like you realize how quickly even, you know, the landlocked states are just clueless about, it's not even on their radar. And why would it be, I guess, about when you think about all the big catfish that are out there and you can't spearfish them, you know, like oh, it's lost opportunity or whatever, big largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, whatever, in those freshwater reservoirs. Yeah, that would be fun to go chase some stuff like that, striper, things like that.
And you said it initially is like we have the ability to be selective, right? So for instance, walleye and pike, they're a really slow growing fish. They're super tasty. I think of them like the grouper of the freshwater. As far as taste goes, like one of the most desirable white fishes to eat. And you know, a 30-inch walleye is 30 years old, and it's almost exclusively a female. So we do our part, like in Utah, for example, one of the states that we have regional tournaments in. We work with the DNR and they say, yeah, in this lake, if you guys don't mind, just spear a bunch of like the 18 to 23-inch fish. They tell us what to target because they're, you know, they want to, you know, whatever, control the population of breeders, let the big breeder females live on. But then those smaller 18 to 20s are more like males, more like 20% female, 80% male. And so we can do a lot of different stuff and working together. And so we got to be careful. We got to be selective. Don't always shoot these big, slow growing fish. Like it's fun to take 1 or 2 as a trophy, but you can really harm the populations that way if you're not careful.
Yeah, I've said this before in this podcast. It's like being a sniper. Not that I was, so please don't get any false illusions. But the impact that a sniper has, one shot on a key figure, right? Cut the head off the snake kind of thing. And we're selective. We go to reefs. We may only take, 5 fish. But if we take 5 key fish, we can decimate an area very quickly with that and make the overall population, just by doing that over and over again of that reef, downsize it from, let's say, a 50-pound grouper to now the biggest ones that are there are 25 overnight, So, yeah, it's definitely responsibility and maturity that goes in, and I guess a little bit of education too that goes into that. With you guys, so how does it work every year now when you got your, because other than talking to Cole about it, like I'm pretty naive about the whole competitive portion of nationals and worlds and all of that. You guys, you do how many events every year, and then how do you decide where it's going to be? I mean, freshwater. I mean, obviously freshwater and and saltwater are completely separate organizations. You guys are freshwater. How does how do you guys decide what you're going to do and when you're going to do it?
Yeah, so the freshwater stuff, like is it's closed loop. So like you were saying, you pick on a reef and you say you shoot whatever, these big groupers, and now it's a bunch of 20-pounders left. But at some point, a 50-pounder can swim in to the reef from like somewhere down the way. It's possible. Like they're kind of territorial fish, but let's just say one day a hurricane came and blew up the ocean real bad, that grouper swims in. For us, we don't have anything swimming in, right? We close loop, like what we have on the lakes, what we have. So we choose the lakes kind of rotationally as well to, reduce pressure on them. You bring in 100 of the best divers in the world. These guys are hammers. Like, you got to make your tournament set up so you're picking on species that are, invasive, or you work with the local people to help them achieve a management agenda. Because when you bring in these hammers, man, these guys can, in a weekend, can shoot some fish, dude. So, which is great, which is what we want them there for. So we rotate. Like I said, next year is in Lake Geneva. It has a huge panfish population, and one of them are sort of invasive-ish. They're the rock bass. They're not a super desirable fish to eat, and the DNR doesn't even, they're like, you don't even got to clean them, just get them out. So that'll be one of the fish we go ham on next year. And then the carp is there as well. Not as many of them. So we're going to do, this one is a shore dive. We sort of tailor our tournament to the lake. So this one's going to be a great lake for a shore dive, because there's a road that goes all the way around the entire lake that is accessible, and people can get in and shore dive wherever they like. Versus Lake Powell, it's literally like, Lake Powell is like similar to Grand Canyon. It's just dammed up Grand Canyon. It's in the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere, no roads. You have to use a boat. So the next tournament, we have the ability to shore dive, and we want to focus in on this invasive panfish. But then, since we're shore diving, how do you pull up these carp? We can't do 100 carp, so we'll do the 5 biggest one. So you got to tote 5 big carp around with you, and then a bunch of panfish, and it'll be a really fun mix, kind of back to basics hunt. The year after that, we're looking at several different lakes. One here in Texas. We've kind of got like a little selection sheet with about 25 lakes on it. Everybody ranks. And we sort of set a management goal agenda, and we just reach out to the local people for help with logistics. And saltwater is the same thing. I mean, it rotates around those 5 categories, but next year, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in Florida. We're angling for the Keys. I've kind of helped some of the key players that do all this stuff through USOA to align it up and help with networking and sponsors and stuff.
That's probably great for the local economy too, especially some of these smaller towns. Yeah,
man, it is, and like I said, the same thing to Darville and Fernando. I'm trying to get them to consider hosting a saltwater nationals through the OC Sparrows, and they work closely with Spear America, and they would bring a ton of business in that week to Spear America and all the local stuff, the food, the lodging, etc. It just gets a huge influx for a week of scouting and diving. It's totally good for the local economy.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's almost like a whole nother world, just hearing another subculture of spearfishing, seeing the little, just hearing you talk about it. Number one, I mean, literally, after talking with Nicole, I was like interested. I never heard much about it before. It's like a lot of the guys that I knew that were involved were like Florida, and then, that kind of grew from there. But other than like local little tournaments, never heard much about this at all. With you, how did you go from Wisconsin to Florida? And then really, I'm assuming when you were in Florida, just crank it up times 10 as far as spearfishing. Now,
no, it was Colorado. It was Colorado.
Oh, that's right. So, Colorado.
Yeah. I went there out of college for work, and I was by Aspen. So I'm a builder by trade, and a lot of building going on for the movie stars. Right. And then it works out where we have about a 2-month window in the spring where it's just the snow's all melting. We call it mud season. It's neither ski season nor hiking or mountain biking season. So it sort of shuts down. So we take this 2-month break. And then from there, I would travel a ton. My wife and I have spent a month in the Bahamas several different times. Just, you go hard 11 months out of the year and you take that month for yourself. So, the Bahamas has become like my place. Like I got a pretty good routine down there. I take a couple of friend groups there several times a year on top of it. And, I've got it dialed in, man. And the pole spearing has become my second love. I've really barely got into gun spearfishing except the last, 10, 12 years. Been mostly pole spearing.
Yeah, the Bahamas, it seems like that's just God, the water down there looks incredible. And then the pole spearing, it's almost like with that whole area, just from what I've never been there, but it seems like it's so clear. I mean, everything that sees you within 100 feet is going to be in the cracks. So you really got to be comfortable. It's almost like perfect for pole spearing because you can get in those cracks with a pole spear that maybe you wouldn't feel as comfortable with a gun, firing a gun into a, coral, and how that works out with your shaft gets stuck, having been there. Yeah, what a cool place. The other thing about the Bahamas that, what I know from some of the social media stuff is just all the damn sharks everywhere.
Yeah, Bahamas put a moratorium on shark fishing, as opposed to Mexico, which seems like it's one of their big, exports.
Yeah,
so Bahamas
tacos, shark tacos.
Yeah. Hey, even about some of those scallops, you think those are actual shark? It's hard to know. But because I told you, I spent 3 months in Bahamas in Mexico during COVID, which was super cool too. So you hear the legend.
Yeah, I want to talk about.
We'll get there.
Talk about that too. Yeah,
we'll get there. But Bahamas is like a spearfisher's paradise. Super clear water, safe, warm diving, more or less. The sharks are just out there for your fish. They're not there to eat you, but you do get a appreciation for them, and you do become comfortable diving around sharks. It's just part of the deal. And the Bahamian divers have been fishing and spearfishing for a long time commercially, and so where we're able to really do well is the advancement in gear. We bring over these like super specific roller pole spears now are all the thing, and put it with a float and a float line. You can target some pretty good stuff in a little bit deeper water. And though the Bahamian commercial guys all dive with a tank or like a compressor on the surface, that
surface supply,
yeah, and so they have like a reach like about 50 feet, and they can't get much deeper than 50. So if you can free dive deeper than 50, you can really go hard on some big fish that have probably never seen a human before. So they're not all spooked out. They're not all like they come up to you if you just lay quiet, and they are like curious, like, what's this thing that just fell from the surface? Oh, can I eat it? And they'll come right up to you. So you sort of blend in and hunt there. It's super clear, you're right, but just hold still and look like food. Don't look like a predator. After you spear your fish, you do need to be aware of the sharks. And, generally I think bringing them in close to your body as if you've eaten it, possibly, that prey fish no longer sends out that vibration, that panic, and the sharks kind of calm down. It is risky because then the sharks, if you do it later, they come up to you and they're trying to eat your fish, but then you pull it close to you. Well, now they maybe nip you. And there's no nipping when you're a shark, man. They tear you up in a hurry. So it's a deal, man. We try to dive a spot and shoot a fish and then move like a half mile and start over. It's really, it's a consideration. It's become a real consideration, the sharks, and how to dive around them and not feed the sharks.
Or is it everything from just reef sharks to bull sharks, tigers? I mean, kind of everything in between.
Yeah, I've never seen a tiger while I was in the water per se. I think I've seen them from the surface, but I've never seen them in the water. Hammerheads too. One day we were scouting a spot, and it's gin clear water, and we're shooting along at 30 knots, and I'm marking spots like coral heads that I can see from the surface, and I'm marking them on the GPS as we drive over them to kind of, figure out a good dive loop. And I drove over a shark. I mean, didn't hit him, but like drove over him in, 20 feet of water, and the boat's, 9 foot wide beam, and his head was on one side and his tail was on the other. So I don't know what shark it was, but we were in 20 feet of water and it was a giant. So we stopped marking spots right there and just kind of drove a little further.
Yeah, I can understand that. Why pick that battle? Yeah. Very cool. So you would vacation from Colorado down to the Bahamas, and then during COVID, we were talking on the phone, and you said during COVID, which was in some ways amazing for some of us that worked out, including myself. A lot of family time, road trips, free time. For you, you had a similar situation, and you and your wife and dogs, right? I think.
Yeah.
Or you guys just took off and went to Baja for 3 months.
Yeah, it was incredible, man. Took the
Let's
camper.
talk.
Took the camper, hooked it up, and my wife worked for the government, and they went full remote. She worked in the court system for the state of Colorado, and they went full remote. And we didn't actually ask permission, and packed the stuff and left January 15th, and we didn't get home until April 5th. And we got home just in time to do the nationals that you spoke about, where the carp got dumped on the highway. That's why we came home, was for nationals. And we spent that 3 months down there just traveling on the weekend. And then my wife, she'd have to work all week. So we would find a place to stay for a week and we would dive it. So had some super memorable times, just randomly driving around Baja, and we were like the only white people there. We were the only tourists, right? And typically the winter is full of tourists down there, snowbirds from Canada and the United States. But this year, with the world going crazy, like California was locked down, everybody was freaked out, and they mostly stayed home. And us and another couple from Colorado, we didn't even know them. We met them down in Los Barillas when we finally settled in about an hour and a half north of Cabo. And they were like from an hour and a half away, and they thought the same thing as we did. They were like, well, cool. COVID struck. The world's locked down. Let's go to Baja. And it was incredible, man. Dove every day for a month straight. My son was only 2 at the time, or 3. He might have just turned 3 in Baja. He turned 3 before we left. That's right. And so he would take a nap at 1 o'clock every day after lunch. And when he would take a nap, I'd go find fish for supper. And I didn't come home until I had something for supper. And, whether it was, a golden trevally, made some excellent sashimi, or a parrotfish for ceviche. We, ungroupers and stuff, we would just, live that way. And it was really fun being that close to your food, in that you could go out and spear dinner fresh every night. And through all that, I became a great diver too, on top of everything. Just diving every day, really get to work on yourself and really figure out your bad habits. And after 20 years of diving, free diving, I developed some bad habits that I really got to shake loose from down in Baja. It was awesome.
What kind of bad habits? Because I think everybody has them. Habits did you notice?
The biggest one, everybody says you go to a dive class, and I took my dive class with Garo Hachijan from Gannett, the guy that owns Gannett. He was dive instructor, super cool guy, and did mine in San Diego. Flew out to San Diego, met my buddy who lives there in Carlsbad, and we took the class together. It's always relax, just relax. You burn oxygen by not relaxing. Just relax in the water. And after diving for 20 years, I thought I was relaxed, and I was like, yeah, I'm relaxed. But you don't realize all these little things. So one thing I noticed was I was holding my gun too tight. Why am I gripping my gun as tight as I am? There's no reason for that. So just little things like hold your gun less tightly. Also be streamlined. You can have a lot more bottom time if getting down there, you do a nice straight duck dive, clear your ears, and just slowly thin your way down, meter per second, and keep your chin sort of tucked, and your head is streamlined in a neutral position. And however you hold your gun, hold it against your body. Don't flail out. Don't do anything crazy. Get down to the bottom and relax. And I noticed myself kind of clutching my gun a little too tight. And on the way back up, same thing in reverse, let your gun hang. Now I let my gun hang right by my side, my right-hand side, and I just close my thumb and my one index finger around the handle. So that's it. So that's how I lightly hold my gun. It doesn't have to be clutched tightly. I loosen up my neck and my back. I really let my shoulders sort of float me to the surface is how I think about it. And that in itself saves a lot of oxygen in your blood. So you just totally relax everything. And those little things you don't realize you're doing until you go every single day and you sort of really can think about yourself.
Yeah. Is there anything else other than the efficiency or the efficiency part of it?
That and like you see it on the GoPro, and I don't wear a GoPro on my mask anymore. I very rarely GoPro my videos anymore, but it's not Blair Witch Project down there, guys. Like, hold your head still, move your eyes, slowly look around, not back forth, and like it's for one, it's terrible video. I don't want to watch that junk. For two, everything sees you whipping around and feels you like. It's not good. Just blend in on the bottom. And it's super cool when you see like these mullets and these bait fish roll over you in these bait balls because they've accepted you as the bottom. When you're in that surge and that current, that shallower stuff, roll with it. Don't just lock in and fight it. Just this ease back and forth. Let it, roll. And man, the groupers and stuff swim right up to you. And just having that easy, free, relaxed dive allows the fish to accept you into their environment. They swim up to you curious, like, oh, this must be food. It fell off a ship or whatever, and boom, I'm going to eat it. So if you just hold still and just wait, it's a waiting game at that point. They come right to you.
Good tips, man. Honestly, everything that you do uses oxygen. So guys always say, like, guys, if you can, hold your breath for 5 minutes sitting in bed, try to make those movements as similar as when you were holding your breath sitting in bed as possible, so that you can bridge that gap between your dive and a 5-minute breath hold. It shouldn't be 30-second dive and a 5-minute breath hold. Try to make it 3 minutes or something, But yeah, your GoPro footage, it's really funny watching that because you don't realize how quickly you're turning your head and looking around, and you're like, God, I look like if I was on land, I would look like I was on crack right now, like freaking out.
Yeah.
And it really is kind of a good piece of information you can gain by filming.
Cam Kirkconnell said it best. Kirkconnell from Florida there, and he's a spearfishing guide around the world. He said it best on one of these podcasts. He says it's like having dive ADD. He calls it dive ADD, and it starts on the surface. You're like, you want to do double the surface interval that you did down. So if I do a minute down, I would do 2 minutes on the surface, right? But you get into this like dive ADD where you're like, what am I missing? I got to get down there. So like relax on the surface. Just chill. Let your alarm go off on your watch or whatever, and like really watch it. And then when you get down there, like I'll spend the first 10 or 15 seconds with my face straight down. For one, when you're laying on the bottom like that, your neck is up and you're looking out, that neck position actually is a tight muscle. And after doing it all day, you realize, man, my neck hurts. Why does my neck hurt? Well, because you've been like craning your neck looking for fish. So the first 15 seconds after I hit the bottom, I just lay there with my head neutral, like looking at the bottom. Whether you want to add in a little scratching or dusting or whatever kind of attractant is your call. And sometimes that works, and sometimes just being quiet works. And lay on the bottom with your head in a neutral position, and then slowly look up and look around with your eyes first before turning your head. And my first passion was bow hunting. And so it's the same thing with bow hunting, man. When you're sitting in a tree in Wisconsin, like you whip your head around like Blair Witch, you're going to scare away all the dang deer. So look with your eyes, slowly turn your head, etc. And so that's what I always say about spearfishing. If you like to hunt and you like to fish, you're going to love spearfishing. It's the same techniques.
That's a good point. People, too many times as spearfishermen, like we try to figure out, like I was going to do a video on this actually this week about animal behavior, and like terrestrial animals or marine animals, doesn't matter. They're all motivated by the same things. Survive a bit like to survive. So what things are included in that to them, right? Like, so food, sex, reproduction, shelter, whatever it is, protection. Um, and it's all the same thing. Like, so it makes sense that if you're a bow hunter on land, you're going to take to spearfishing, except for you got to deal with the water, the element, right? The environment, the aquatic environment. But on the flip side, I think so many people that spearfish are getting into bow hunting because it's the same kind of similar thing. And I think, drawing back on a big land mammal is pretty incredible. Probably in some ways more incredible than shooting a fish, It's just different. Yeah.
Yeah, if you grew up shooting fish, and grew up doing that, then you're gonna love bow hunting, right? It goes both ways. And so I started in Wisconsin. I had bow hunting, shot my first deer at 12. My mom let me take off of school for opening day of deer season, which is September 15th, no matter what day it fell on. So that was like a religious experience for me. So we would go to the Church of the Woods every the 15th and bow hunt, man, and it was dope. And it works so well in the water. Like, the only difference now is you're kind of a performance athlete, and I'm 42 this year, and I've lost a step on land, but man, in the water, if you've got the elements of relaxation and being streamlined down, you can do this sport forever. And that's why seeing some of these legends come out of the woodwork in freshwater spearfishing is so cool. Like Gerald Lim and Ken Lee won the Masters division this year, and they haven't competed spearfishing in 18 years. Those guys, literally, this is the first time they've dove together in 18 years, and they came out and kicked butt. And that's why getting into the freshwater game is so cool, because it extends your life. You don't got to dive down 60, 80, 90, 100 feet if you're in Florida or Hawaii. Those guys are diving 100, 130 because they've shot all the fish and they're getting deeper and deeper. Freshwater, the fish live at the thermocline, man. So if you want to keep doing this into your 80s, like some of these guys are, come to freshwater. It's tons of fun. The same legends are there from Hawaii. The same legends are there from Florida. But we're just there having a little more fun and being relaxed and doing it, in dark, cold water, which is pretty cool.
I've actually seen in Lake Mojave and Lake Mojave, the visibility actually pretty good. Like, from looking back, I was like, man, it's like 30 feet of viz. Like,
Yeah.
This is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Mojave, the river, Meade, it's not too far from San Diego. It's like 6-7 hours over there. And plus it's right next to Vegas. You could always fly in. That's where my buddy Matt Suter lives. You're giving away some of his secrets. The viz is incredible there, really. And Lake Geneva is the same thing in Wisconsin. I think Lake Geneva's viz is better. I think it's like 50 foot. So, it's going to be a ton of fun coming to that event next year too. It's if you're looking to get out and try freshwater, and Brett, if you want to come, I'll personally be your partner or whatever, and like make sure you have a good time, because it's important to get the word out for freshwater. It's cool water.
Yeah, who knows? I might have to adopt a freshwater lifestyle at some point, if California keeps going in the direction it's going in. Pardon me, but I don't know.
It's getting crazy, man. And I love, like I said, I got buddies in Oceanside, and I go there every year and do the patty hop. And I think patty hopping is way more fun than tuna, even though I got a nice tuna a few years ago now. I love eating the tuna, of course, but man, the patty hopping is wild. Like, you get out there and just cruise out, find patties, but it burns up a ton of gas at $7 a gallon or whatever the hell you guys are getting it for.
Yeah, that's at the fuel dock. My friend works there. Yeah, it's I think it is about that. I think it's absurd. Patty hopping, it's so easy to. I mean, half the fish swim. Yellowtail, especially on patties, they swim up to you. But that reminds me, we need to talk about boat driving.
Oh yeah,
and you were part of an incident, and you can go into it as much as you want to. It doesn't matter. You don't have to talk about it. But a couple of years ago, I think. I mean, but I remember hearing about a diver getting run over, a diver from Colorado or something. I don't remember the details, but you were there. Do you want to fill us in on that, if you feel comfortable. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the candor, and I was looking for the right opportunity to talk about it because it made a lot of the news. It was like on Bloody Decks and another one of those forums where some people were not very well informed and just spouting off whatever nonsense that they could think of, which is kind of the way
Shocking.
things, yeah, right. Which is
Yeah.
kind of the way things go, especially in the dive community. You know, like it happens all the time. Like somebody dies from spearfishing and it's like, oh, he's a shallow water blackout. Oh yeah, he was overweighted. Oh yeah, he was this, he was that. Like you really don't know. You know, maybe you do figure out through investigation what happened, but we're quick to jump to conclusions because I think it's a defense mechanism. Like, oh, it's not going to happen to me because I'm this much safer. I do this the most safe way, or whatever. And yeah, this incident was crazy. It was the best day of spearfishing I've ever had up until the incident happened. And I was just driving a boat for it was my buddy's boat, borrowed it, just like I'd been using it all week. I'd been out there for a week at this point, been diving a ton. Had dove earlier in the week with Nate Wells of Wells Spear Guns and drove boat for them all day, him and another guy. And they got on some nice yellowtail, and I, was just driving. They're like, do you want to get in? I was like, dude, I've been diving all week. I'm good. I'm just taking a break. It was fun to watch them have fish. And, but I will say at the end, they finally convinced me to get in, and I shot one yellowtail right away, handed them my gun. I was like, here, take care of this yellow. Give me my other gun. They gave me another gun, and I popped that sucker too. So I shot as many fish as anyone in one patty. So I can dive. I just also don't mind taking it easy and driving boat and making sure that people have a good time. So just want to throw that out there. But this day was nuts. It was a buddy of mine from Colorado came out, and he had a house in Del Mar and a buddy up in LA, and they're like, hey, let's link up. And we did. We went out diving that day, and beautiful flat water. And it was like 23 patties we hit that day, and like pretty much all of them were empty. Like just nobody was home, and you know how that goes. So off and on the boat all day long, off and on, off and on, off and on. And besides spearfish boat driving, like I've done in the Bahamas, and we go to the Bahamas, we rent a boat, we're down there for a month, we drive all over the ocean. I also used to drive boat for competition water skiing in Wisconsin. And we would do, several people, you've seen like the pyramids and all that stuff of water skiers going on. So you think it's tough driving a boat in the ocean and mining the people in the water that you're spearfishing. Wait till you have 8 people in the water you got to pick up with skis and they fall off. And you're in a lake that's constantly, it's like a closed loop. So it's constant traffic. It's constantly people running behind you, and you're tubing. It's really can be really hectic. So with all of that experience I've had boat driving, I feel like I'm one of the better boat drivers in spearfishing for sure. And on this day, man, it was like every other day, just pick up, drop off, let the guy swim into the boat. Everything was good. The guy that ended up getting killed was a pretty experienced spear fisherman. He'd been on some guided trips, and he was a really strong athlete, in really good shape. And the visibility was excellent that day, like that cobalt blue deep water. And he could make good dives and everything. And he was also a hard charger. And I didn't realize that combination could be an issue. Because he kept pushing, we weren't finding the fish, but he kept pushing himself to find the fish. Like, it's a beautiful day. Why couldn't it happen? And, to this end, he kept pushing it, and he ended up getting a good fish on. And he had his buoy breakaway system set up. And I told him, I said, we'll retrieve the buoy. And from the boat, because of the circumstances.
Was it a bluefin or a yellowtail?
No, it was a mola.
Okay.
The guy had heard that mola molas are extremely good eating. And I had actually heard as well, they called them poor man's lobster on one of the websites I'd read. The commercial guys like free gaff them because they sun themselves, you know? So the commercial
Yeah,
guys,
I've eaten it before in South Korea, and I've picked them up out of the water, just floated up to them, picked them up, and put them back in the water. Smaller one.
yeah, they
Yeah,
free gaff them, I guess. The belly meat is like the best, right? Like they boil it and do different things to it. And
I guess I had it in Korea with the Korean forces we were working with, and it was kind of like this weird gelatinous kind of.
gelatinous. Yeah,
Yeah,
gelatinous.
yeah. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't bad.
So yeah, he said it was really good. He's a really good chef. He wanted to try it. And on
Okay.
top of being like essentially skunked all day, you know,
Yeah.
on the patties, we did have some bluefin come up, which is why we had a bluefin. We had a tuna rig ready to go. He was like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna shoot a mola mola if one presents itself." And I was like, "Okay, you know, I know you're not going to post that on Instagram, and California is going to probably not like it, but it's your fishing license, bro. Like, do what you want."
I don't even
And
know. Is it legal?
oh yeah, yep.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever. I mean, I just never considered it.
And so is Mako. You can shoot,
Yeah.
Makos.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I've
there's
seen people
certain
do that.
people, yeah, there's certain people who are like, I don't mess with sharks, and sharks don't mess with me. But if it's legal and it's good to eat, like by all means, man, like it's your decision. And he
Yeah.
wanted one,
100%.
and but I also have heard from other people that they really they're powerful. So that was
They are.
why, yeah, that was why, he's like, well, I'm going to spear it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll get your buoy. That was the plan, because it's going to take your buoy forever. And we only had a single buoy system. We had a 100-foot bungee, but a single buoy, which is fine generally for tuna. But mola mola, we're kind of treading in new territory. So yeah, so he
Yeah.
spears
I'm
this
just laughing
fish.
because so the only thing I remember about the Mola Mola thing is when I was like in third grade, I think we were half day fishing, and one of the deckhands was like trying to purposely hook it because he was saying, "Watch how hard these things fight! Like they can jump out of the water and all of that." And that's the only thing. I just think Mola Mola are hilarious because they're just so goofy looking, and getting like your tuna gear all set up, for a Mola Mola just seems funny in itself. But again, I don't really care, like one way or another. You want to eat it, whatever. I mean, to each his own. You're not breaking any rules and whatever. So it just
Exactly how
seems,
I.
yeah, it seems funny
Yeah,
though. It's like
yeah.
we had too much to drink, and it's like, let's go shoot a Mola Mola. All right.
And that's an important part of this story. I hadn't At that point, I'd been fishing like 7 days straight, and so I have bad sinuses or whatever, and so I sometimes have trouble clearing when diving. So I don't drink alcohol at all when I'm diving, and I hadn't had
Right.
any alcohol at all for like a week at this point, because I've been diving all week. Um, and because that's exactly what you would think, like, oh, this is how this happens. It's a crack head idea,
Yeah.
though,
I mean, yeah.
right?
I mean, I
So
say that jokingly, but I've had moments where we've been good idea fairies like that. Let's go catch and kill snakes, like poisonous snakes. Okay, cool.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
the
yeah.
smartest moment, but
Yeah, everybody has moments of less than the best kinds of thinking. But in this case, we were all stone
yeah,
sober. Nobody on the boat had anything to drink all day. I hadn't drank anything in 7 days, and because you're out at sea anyways. Like you don't have as it turns out, there's not a lot of margin for error. And the dudes
yeah.
wants to spear a mola.
Okay,
Like, have at it, bro. And
yeah,
he ends up on a patty with a mola and ends up shooting one. No shit. And like I said, it was the best day of spearfishing ever. We'd seen blue whales. I think they were blue whales. He was a whale expert of some kind. He's like, those are blue whales. We drove over to them. We couldn't get on them. We saw, the most amazing sea conditions, all these things. And on the way back in, he's like, let's shoot a mola mola. Okay, dude. And he hooks up on one, and I before it all happened, we talked about it. I was like, the only way this is going to go down is if I chase the buoy down with the boat, and your buddy on board grabs the buoy. Like, this is the only way we're going to be able to land a mola. And so this is how it went down. He shoots the mola right off the back of the boat, like 20 feet behind us. And we drive forward away from him and circle around him to the fish took off. I mean, dude, tombstone the float instantly, and it's headed to Japan. So we drive. At this point, we were facing land. We were facing east, and we head out east, circle around to the north, and come all the way around like a 270-degree arc, so his buddy can grab the buoy, which is headed out west towards Japan. And I'm backing down the buoy. He missed it the initial grab, but I'm backing down the buoy. And the diver yells like, "Look out for my line!" And I'm like, "I'm nowhere near the line, dude. We got it. He's gonna grab the buoy." And that's when it happened. I don't know what happened. We should have been 200 feet away from him at that point with the way the buoy was going, and we were backing down the buoy from the grab, and I heard a hit. I thought I hit the buoy and wrapped it in the prop, but it was him. Back down the buoy.
Okay, so the diver was in the water, shoots the fish takes off to Japan. So the fish is going west.
Mm-hmm.
And then how big is the boat you guys were in?
It was just a small like cuddy cabin, something like 25
feet or something.
Yeah. A little inboard, IO style setup.
Yeah, and so the plan was to get the diver in the boat and then go chase the buoy, right?
No, I told him, I said, we're going to grab the buoy first because it's going to take off. So he's a super competent diver, been all over spearfishing. The plan is we're going to get the buoy, capture the buoy and fight him from the boat, and he can swim back to the boat at that point.
Okay. And then what was it? So I'm curious, with molas, when you shot it, does it sound, or does it just run like a marlin, like along? Is that what the concern was? Like, is it just take off and then you wouldn't find it again, or?
Look, this is the only time I've ever shot a mola. And so,
yeah.
So like, look, this is it, and I've joked about shooting molas before. Cause like everyone, you have a hard day fishing and you wish that you'd had some meat on the boat. Right. And yet you pull up to a patty and there's a car door. That's a mola. That's like 300 pounds. And, we know they dive down deep and feed on like squid and all kinds of stuff deep. Right. So the assumption is they're going to sound and take your gear. Right. It's certainly sounded, but it also moved towards Japan. Like it sounded and swam. And not knowing this, what it was going to do, being on the forefront of mola shooting, the plan was we were going to grab the buoy before it had a chance to either sound and sink the buoy out or race off. And the divers in the water is just fine. Like we're out in the middle of nowhere. So it wasn't like there was boat traffic to worry about or anything.
Yeah. So you're thinking the diver just shoots it. Okay. And
you did your part.
Hang out until we grab this and at least secure it. And then I'll come and then swim to the boat. Shouldn't be that far off.
That's right. We were, again, this is a loose plan made amongst three fishermen at the end of the day. Like it wasn't like we'd done this the night before on a whiteboard and had it all planned out. Like,
yeah. And I don't mean to be I'm not laughing because obviously somebody died. So that's not funny. I'm laughing just because it's like, I think everyone's been there with, hey, we'll do this, we'll do that. And it's just like that moment of after a fish has been shot, especially for the first time shooting, that moment of chaos where shit's going everywhere because you're like, we got to grab the buoy. And just like the buffoonery of it all, like I'm thinking of, not in a negative way now, I'm just thinking just guys being guys or whatever, over a mola, like trying to spear a fucking mola and then like trying to get a hold of the thing, right up until the point now something happens that's fucking terrible.
It was just a normal day of fishing, dude. We're having a good time. We actually got it on video and we were really tactical about it. Like as far as everything went, it all went according to plan. The diver gets in the water and does his part. Our part is to catch the buoy before it sinks out or goes to Japan. And it's on video. The whole entire thing is on video all the way up to the accident. Oh. Yeah. And so from, I wasn't videoing. I was driving, completely focused on the program. His buddy, the passenger, was doing all the videoing. And so this is all like, after you have a marine accident of any kind, this is all in the hands of the Coast Guard now. And so all this has been reviewed, all this has been vetted, all this has been, found to be just a horrible accident. But it wasn't like there was no negligence, there was no stupidity, there was no buffoonery, there was no, there was nothing other than just an accident. There was no.
Well, I think people want to make sense of everything, right, after the fact, and sometimes, an accident's an accident. I mean, there's always ways to improve everything, and then everybody's, Monday morning quarterbacking stuff.
That's right, and that's how it goes down on bloody decks or spearboard or whatever. As everyone wants a Monday morning quarterback, and they weren't there. But but the there is, we were all stone sober. We were all professional. We were all good at diving. We were all good at driving boats. And however it happened, the diver swam up in his moment of lack of awareness or judgment or whatever. Somehow he swam a couple hundred feet.
Yeah, and this is what I'm thinking, because I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and having done putting divers and picking divers up in the water, like definitely over, I don't know, 10,000 times, like documented actually for work.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, after you shot the fish, did he was like, I can just get to the boat. I'll get in the boat right now.
No, not at all.
Maybe he just took off to the boat, and then you back down, and then he happened to be there, and he should have been there.
Nope, not at all. You can see in the video, he is swimming after the buoy, like away from the boat.
Yeah.
So he swims away after the buoy and like in the direction that the buoy's going. We circle around. So the motor at first was facing him, the way we were pointing, he was out the back of the boat. And then we swung around 270 degrees. So the motor is facing away from him.
Right. Yep.
So he was never in jeopardy of the motor, other than in his zest to grab the buoy or keep it sounded like he said, look out for my line. Like, I'm not 100% sure if he dove or what. Like, he was trying to keep the motor, the line, the float line clear of the motor, but in the middle of it all, he got hit at the weight, on the weight belt.
Yeah. It's wild, man. I'm just speculating. I'm just thinking, like, was he trying to think that you were going to float or drift over the line? So he's trying to dive and get out of the way, trying to be helpful, as most of us are, and you end up,
no telling. I don't
know.
The guy that was the guy that was filming the passenger, his good friend, missed grabbing the buoy by like inches. Like he just like missed the grab. Like it floated right along the starboard side, and he just missed the grab. And he's like,
which is pretty standard.
Yeah. Should I jump in off the swim deck? He's like, should I jump in? I was like, no, I'll just back it down. There's a swim deck. Should I jump in and grab it? I was like, no, let me just back it down. It's right here. It's like the buoy was 3 feet off the swim deck. It was like, let me just back it down a little bit and grab it. It's no big deal.
Fuck, man. I cannot imagine being in your guys' shoes.
No, it was insane. I mean, and from there, like the best diving day you've ever had, the clearest water, completely ended. But to turn into like, I almost quit spearfishing over it.
I wouldn't blame you over that. I know, at work, we've had people prop animals all the time. Like when I was working for the Dolphins, training dolphins, like people would prop dolphins, and I know that sound when the propeller hits something, and instantaneously, this is a friggin' dolphin. I'd shoot a dolphin or whatever, dude, but way before a human being. Like, I'm not trying to say that the same, but I know that sound of boom, oh fuck, and how bad is it or whatever it is, like, and then they surface and there's, slashes on it. All of them lived and were fine, but I can't imagine if that was a human being, and we're out here just fishing. Like, it's not supposed to be life or death, for the most part,
Yeah, it was the best day of your life. I mean, the dude was having the best day of his life, and then it was over. And then it was over that fast.
So you're at the helm, you're backing down, and then did you just feel it? You just felt the
Oh, dude, it wasn't. I hit his weight belt. I mean, hit him right on the weights. Like it trashed the prop,
Yeah.
everything. It was insane. I mean, hit him right on the weight belt where Elvis is and all your major bones and stuff. Like the dude was dead instantly. Like there was no, I mean, he didn't, there was no way to, there was never
Yeah.
like you're never going to save him. Like he was never going to live. If this injury happened in the operating room somehow, you couldn't have saved him.
Yeah. Did it hit an artery? I'm assuming. Like,
It nearly cut him in half.
out.
Yeah, it nearly cut him in half at his pelvis. So
yeah, there's not a lot you can do there.
No, I mean we recovered him as fast as we could. I had him after we knew what happened. Like after I knew what happened, I had him on board and tried to address the situation and do whatever medical aid I could, which was pack the wound, call 911. I mean, call 16 for a mayday. Yeah, there's nothing you can do. There was it was incredible the amount of blood loss in the water, and then there was no blood loss on the boat. So his heart had he either bled completely out or his heart had quit beating before I even got him on the boat in 10 seconds or less.
Yeah, I knew somebody that was a lifeguard when the guy got hit by a great white in Solana Beach, and he was saying they were on the beach when they pulled the guy in, and he was just completely white, and something about the water, how blood is in the water, man, it is just an absolute, oh man, blood in the water is just crazy how much you either bleed or it just turns the whole ocean very quickly completely red. I've seen that. People that spearfish, we deal with that all the time, especially if you're bleeding a tuna in the water. It looks like you slaughtered a cow back there. Because we can't cry over spilled milk, as far as like we can't fix shit happened, it is what it is, but we can learn moving forward. Do you mind, like, when you got him, so it's realistic for everybody, pulling somebody in with all their dive weight and all this shit was heavy. With him, I don't know what condition it was, and we don't have to get into specifics, but was it difficult to get him back in the boat, or just immediately kind of just grab him because of the adrenaline rush?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm a good sized person myself. Like I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. And he was a good sized guy himself, maybe 5'10", 190 or something. But in the moment, in the adrenaline rush and everything, you can move a house. And
right
as soon as I saw what happened, I got the motor was off, and I went back and grabbed him under the arms and just pulled him on one clean jerk. And he was on board, and we were immediately in assess mode. And I grabbed a towel and some things and packed it in his wound and had 16, hailing Coast Guard immediately. But, the injury was gruesome. I mean, other than the immediate, assess the major bleeding, there was none. Because like I said, I think looking back, it was over before it began. There was nothing to be done. Like, if it was a tourniquet, it could have been a tourniquet on, and we could have used a spear gun band for a tourniquet. I mean, we have a first day on the boat, all those things. But it took the helicopter. Oh man, it must have been an hour to get there.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do a FOIA request to get the Coast Guard like transcripts and full report, because of course there's an investigation.
Yeah.
To kind of see the timeline, but it took like an hour, like an impossibly long time for the Coast Guard to arrive, and the cutter got there almost as fast as the helicopter did.
Yeah, because if a helicopter's not up and running, if it's not in the air already, and I don't know what the status of it is, they have to do pre-checks, and they can't mess around with that stuff. And all of that. And then the crew, I mean, yeah. And this goes back to, I mean, there's nothing in this situation, but if anybody's betting on anybody coming in to save you, don't. Like tourniquet, like you said, tourniquet's crucial, because even if you pulled him out of the water and he had if you didn't have a way to stop the bleeding, by the time the Coast Guard would have got there, he'd been bled out regardless.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, they started carrying tourniquets on the boat, and not even on the boat, on your person, because by the time you get back, if you cut an artery, especially in the water like you saw, by the time you get back to the boat, first of all, it's hard to swim back to the boat in a hurry when you have all your blood, let alone if you're the dude who's bleeding out trying to swim. It's seconds. So all the training and stuff that like the ABCs and all that first aid, combat lifesaver, all the stuff that some of us have been through or whatever, it really does drive home the point of you got to be your own, superhero, your own self-rescuer, like, or, in your situation, there's fucking nothing you can do sometimes. It is what it is, but you can do in those situations, it is what it is. But the other 99% of the time, like, you can do all these little things so that you're not cursing yourself like I almost did one time, thinking I'm literally going to fucking drown like this. I'm going to die like this after everything I've been through. I never want to be in that situation where it was such an avoidable thing, like throwing a tourniquet or whatever it is, right? Like signal, anything, getting trapped somewhere, not having a knife underwater. For me, it was kind of a thing. But yeah, it's really wild. So I know this, but I know a lot of people don't know this. You bring them on board, you're assessing the victim, and you get on channel 16, and how to walk me through that whole process, because I've had to do it for real, but I know other people haven't.
Yeah, so it's nuts, man. Like I've been in a couple of these high stress, high reaction settings before a couple times, right? And it's all muscle memory. Like people always talk about it like it's a blur. They don't know what happened. It just, they don't remember things because there's so much going on. Your brain is really a powerful tool, and it slows everything down. You hear people say that, like everything was in slow motion. But you're really working on autopilot. You're really working on your training, or you're really working with, the plan you've had. And so for me, get him on the boat immediately. Packed his wound as best I could, which was an incredible wound. I mean, looking back on it, he was deceased before he even got on the boat. But not knowing at the time, you bring him on and you start going to work, and pack the wound, put pressure on it. His friend was paralyzed with emotion or trauma or whatever. He was, just paralyzed. I mean, I can't blame him. I get it. But you're the captain of the boat. You're the skipper. It's up to you now, and there's nothing to do. So I put whatever I could find in his wound, put his own hand on top of it, just the weight of his arm to hold it in place, while I grabbed the radio, and I'm calling the radio while trying to apply pressure. Got on 16, just yelled Mayday a bunch of times. This is the name of the boat. This is the problem. Earlier that week, I'd been out with another diver out of San Diego, a firefighter, and it was one of the coolest parts, one of the coolest things on a buddy dive that I've ever been a part of. He said on the way out, he's like, okay, I know, and there were several of us on the boat. He's like, I know we all know this, but let's just review this vessel real quick and some of the safety protocol. And he said, here's my radio, 16. Just remember 16 is the emergency number. We're monitoring 16, so it's always ready to go on 16. Here's the GPS. Here's the screen, on the fish finder, the sonar. Here's where we find our coordinates, lat and long. You're going to need that. Here's where the, first aid kit is. And then we actually talked about using spear gun bands. He didn't have a tourniquet, but we're like, well, we can just use a spear gun band as a tourniquet if we need to. So we literally had that talk. And actually another side point to your final point was if you get hit by a shark. So this happened to Al Shepernoff Sr. down in like 65 or something.
Yes. I know
his son, Al Shepernoff Jr. was on the boat, and he yelled. He said, I just been bit by a shark, help. I think it took his lower leg off at like the calf. And by the time they even got him to the boat, he was too far gone, just bled out right there. And then just getting back to the boat, great white down, I think it was Guadalupe.
Yeah, it was a
So
Guadalupe. The crazy thing about that story is talking to Al about that is that he then had to ride the I don't remember how long it was back to San Diego with his deceased father, and he wasn't very old at the
yeah,
time
he was
either.
like 9 or something, and
Yeah.
it's got to be traumatic. I mean, I got a 5-year-old, and like my number one thing is like, and I heard a guy, man, I heard on Noob Spiro, a guy got hit by a bull shark, and he thought he was going to die, and he's riding back, and his like 8 or 9 year old son was like riding with him, and he's just talking to him on the way back, like, forehead to forehead as they're rushing him back to shore, and took an hour ride to get back or whatever in Australia. It's just gnarly, man, and you never want anybody to be in that situation, but if you are, you want to be prepared. And so going out with my firefighter buddy, just, it was really cool. Like, I thought, as a safety conscious person, it was super cool that we had this safety talk on a buddy dive. We're on a buddy boat, we're on a buddy dive, and we're reviewing all the protocol, because it could be him, it could be me. What if I get incapacitated? What if he gets incapacitated? Who's going to drive the boat? We need to know how to drive his boat specifically back to shore. And that day we
Yeah.
happen to be all the way down in Mexico, so it's 30-mile ride or whatever.
Yeah, we cover this a lot at my old job because we're diving every single day and we're constantly having new people. And it's funny because it literally takes 5 minutes maybe. Um, and everybody assumes the guy driving the guy whose boat is never going to be the victim, right? But like you
Yeah,
said, everything that your buddy showed you, it's like, here's the Latin long, get on channel 16, activate EMS, tell him situation, and like, and this is just like the shark thing because it's spearfishing or getting even shot. It's like, okay, how do we take care of these wounds? Easy day. This is how we do this, right? We got a float line. You can do a tourniquet with a float line. You can do a tourniquet. You can do this. You can do that. But the bottom line is, like, I would never want I've heard to be honest with you, I actually believe I'm trying to remember. I think I heard um, that whole conversation that you had on Channel 16 because I was out diving that day. And I also heard not just your time over the course of the years. I've heard a little boy on the radio call and said his dad had a heart attack. Sounded like his dad was having a heart attack. And a little kid on Channel 16 like talking them in to come get his dad. And another boat actually came over and I think gave aid. But I'll tell you, it's it's fucking spooky, man, to hear those maydays or those calls because it goes from, hey, we're out here having fun, like, holy shit, someone just died.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It was the last thing
yeah,
I thought I was going to say that day. And in the moment, you have hope that the guy's going to make it somehow. You're like, I
right.
need a fucking helicopter here right now. Well, right now doesn't happen in maritime. Like, right now is an hour from now, from San Diego or wherever they come from. And it's the last thing I thought I was going to hear myself say that day was Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. I need a fucking helicopter here on, over 16 for you and everybody else that was out that day. And you know what Mayday means? And here's my Latin long. It means come help me. So I ran into a couple other people who were out that day. One of my dive buddies out of South Dakota, I told this to, and he's like, yeah, I was out that day. I was on a tuna charter with somebody. And he's like, I was like 15 miles away. I was like, why didn't you come? Well, what do you
You
mean,
were
why
up in
didn't I come?
Oceanside, right? You were off of Oceanside, right?
Yeah, we
Trying
were
to
out on
remember.
the, I think we were on the 209 or the 310, but straight west of Oceanside, basically, maybe a little
Yeah,
northwest.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a popular place. I think it was a Saturday. I have to look
It
back.
was. It was a
Yeah.
weekend. I remember. No, it's a weekend because I
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
it.
So it's like,
Yeah,
why didn't anybody come? Why was I out there treating the casualty, dealing with the Coast Guard, consoling the friend, like all by myself. And it sucked for me because spearfishing is a small community, and like, in that moment, there's nobody but you, but you wish there was everybody there. You wish it was that community there to help deal with everything. And in the end, like, our boat was disabled. We ended up coming back. It took us like 3 or so hours or 4 hours to get back. We could barely make 6 knots with that damaged prop. Um, the Coast Guard cutter followed us. They weren't going to tow us. They're like, oh, you can call CTO if you want, but we'll just follow you.
yeah. I'll tell you what. You know what? My biggest pet peeve, and I don't know how it is internationally, but I've heard international people comment on. It seems like our culture in I could speak, and they said in California seems like we talk a lot of shit about each other and bag on each other a lot. And I have recently seen that, and some people know what I'm talking about, which is whatever. But it just seems, I don't know if it's the competition of resources here because there's so many of us and it's such a limited source of shoreline, but it really seems that everybody's real quick to talk shit and Monday morning quarterback and all this other stuff. How is that helping anything? Like, and if you're not sure, then maybe don't post anything online, you know, with your 2 cents until you had a chance to actually read the thing. I mean, there was a guy in Mexico that got stranded, and my friend went and helped look for him. And I'm not sure exactly what happened. They got separated in the boat, but whatever, was an incident. And it's like, rather than going, hey, you guys are fucking idiots and kooks and all this other stuff, which I hear so many people talk shit, all you keyboard warriors out there. Rather than that, why don't you take the time to learn from it rather than, you know, you can't do anything about the past. And the other thing is, the sad thing I think with this stuff is too many times people learn through failure, which is good that we're talking about it now, but people aren't even thinking about that. Hey, let me teach my son how to call on channel 16. Hey, I'm taking these people out. Do they even know where the first aid kit is? Like, there were kids in the bay one day. My buddy was late to his to another friend's retirement party because he had to jump on a small inflatable boat that a bunch of kids were on drinking, and he fell overboard and ran over himself and almost hacked his leg off. And everybody was in shock, and he had to throw a tourniquet. This is in San Diego Bay. Had to throw a tourniquet on it, and just talk to the kid, and you know, and then get him the help. And they were worried about getting in trouble because they had been drinking, you know. And anyways, but like just that basic, hey, okay, put the tourniquet on. We got to stop the bleeding. Call channel 16. Let's get the guys, the Coast Guard, because it was in the bay. The harbor police came out and helped. But like, honestly, I mean, I'm on my soapbox right here, but like too many times you hear people just talk shit all the time. And that's not really, but in your situation, you're on the radio asking for help from somebody, and you know, it's crickets. But
yeah. I was,
you know?
I was in touch with Coast Guard right away. I mean, they, when you call for a mayday, they come back, and they, when they get closer, they have you click down off of the 16 to, an operational channel that they monitor or whatever for close work. But like when the helicopter approached the vessel, we had to be on, whatever channel they wanted.
Alpha or something. Yeah,
exactly. And so that's another thing, like just working the radio, and like you said, and number two is go for help. Like when somebody calls for help, like fucking go, man. If you're 20 miles away, you can be there in 30 minutes. Like get there. Yeah. And I was all alone out there for an hour until Coast Guard showed up. And even when Coast Guard showed up, they were hovering over me in a helicopter. Like they're no help.
Right.
Finally they dropped a swimmer and a guy swam on board, and there's nothing he could do, of course. But it's like, it's a big ocean. You're all alone in it at that point. And that really, really sucks. And then, to get back to it, knowing I have a son and a family, like if the tables were turned, if it was me that was killed, like just how devastating it would be for my family and everything. And, I always tell my family now when I go, like, I have a great life. I've had a great life so far, and I continue to have a great life. And if something happens, a shark bite or who knows, God forbid, a car accident or anything, like, don't cry for me. Don't be sad for me. Like, just know I died doing what I loved. And that's the only thing that hopefully will give them peace. And same thing for, Al Sheppernoff Jr. watched his dad die, and he continued to spearfish his whole life, and was great at it. It was great at it. And even though you could, like, I totally didn't want to dive after that for a long time. And
understandable.
Yeah, but it's dude, like 100% number one biggest problem in diving is shallow water blackout. Probably, like, it's easy to push yourself too far. You don't even know you're pushing. You don't even know what you don't even know, because you feel really good diving, and then boom, you're blacked out. If you've ever seen a samba or you ever seen a shallow water blackout, like, they have no idea it happened. So That's the number one greatest risk. Number two is the boat, getting on and off the boat, or other boat drivers. And then number three, somewhere, or four, is like sharks or whatever. Like sharks are really not a thing. It's really,
Yeah.
your own performance in the water, and then the boats or other boats. And you see it all the time, like people nearly getting run over on Instagram, and it gets a ton of likes or whatever on Instagram, but it's not, what is it doing? Are you guys all driving? Are you guys out there diving with dive flags now? Are you guys all out there,
Right.
with buoys all the time? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is that it's not necessarily the boat driver's fault. I mean, how many times a guy's been out and then dude's yelling, but he's about, he's a quarter mile away from his boat, and it's like, man, nobody can see you.
No,
Like,
no, you're a dot in the water.
like for example, Memorial Weekend, I would dove on Friday, and I knew there was going to be a crap ton of boats out there, and I was like, I should bring a float regardless, just so they could see me, although it's shore diving and kelp and things like that. Or just, you know, pop your head up. Like, there's things you can do. You've got three people we're diving with. Somebody's on watch. Somebody's watching the diver. Somebody's watching for boats. Before you drop down, take a look around. But it's got to be a consideration, especially as everything gets more crowded. The boat thing, man. And then the other thing is your own boat, like what happened to you. Um, it's, you do enough, like, especially live boating. And I was going to do another video on this too. Because like you, I also feel that, as arrogant as this sounds, I guess, but I feel pretty damn confident my ability to drive a boat. And I know other people can attest to that, but still, free diving and boat driving are so stressful, because when a free diver goes underwater, you have no idea where they are.
No.
So for me, like, it's different than that situation you were talking about. But like when a diver goes underwater, it's like, you guys just stay neutral. And if they hit their head on the bottom, that's on them. But like, just stay neutral. There's been so many times I've seen propellers go past my head, at work, at just diving, and it's like, man, and I mean within a couple of feet. When someone is free diving, just stay neutral until they're back on the surface. And
Yep.
also the other thing too, I think a lot of common mistakes people do is they run up on the divers, right? They like haul ass, and then they don't stop because it's not like a car. And then the momentum keeps going, and they'll either like run over up on them. Don't aim for the diver, aim off the diver, and just go slow. Like, the extra 5 seconds of giving a little extra gas is probably going to be insufficient or insignificant when you run over them. You're going to have to gallop, you know what I mean? So just take your time. It's a fish, everybody. It's not,
Yeah, and then in the competition diving, so I just got done driving for Burko and Suter and comp diving, and they want to be picked up and moved. If they're not seeing fish on their spot, they want to go, and it's a 6-hour comp, so you got to hurry. You got to be efficient. You don't have to rush. You don't have to hurry. Just be efficient. And so, I, like you said, I agree. You drive up current or whatever, upwind, and let the boat drift back. And then I throw it in neutral long before, you kind of got to know your boat's glide path, I call it. Kind of like when you're neutral, it glides for how far. My boat is a super great, it glides forever. Like, it's incredible. It must be a great hull design. And so you glide into them, and then last second you turn to kick the stern around, so your swim deck is, presented to the diver essentially. And you've been in neutral now at this point for a long time. And then they hop on. As they hop on, get their fins off, you grab their gun. It's already unloaded because they want to be picked up. So you throw their gun in the corner or wherever, and then you pull up your float line. And while you're pulling their float line, getting their buoy on board, they're getting their fins off. And by the time you've got the float line on and the gun's stowed, the diver's on board, they got their mask off, and they're asking for a drink of water, and you can put it in gear and go to the next spot. And that's how it is. Like, competition diving, I just got done driving for a week of scouting and competition, and like, it's just efficiency, and it's just a routine, and it's being safe and quick at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Way we do it, we would go and obviously drop the, we go, you got to go up current, kick it in neutral. We turn the engines to kick the engines away from the divers and basically just kind of circle them. And then as we circle them, the swim step, like you said, is facing them, and then it's just kind of drifts right past them and they can climb right on there. Yeah. So you know what you're doing, obviously, because it's like textbook, it's the same stuff. Yeah, and it's efficient, and you said it's fast. It is. It's just get in the boat, get your stuff. You're right there. Hand me your stuff. Let's go.
Yep. And another thing I've noticed with new drivers or whatever, and this comes from my days of being a ski boat operator. So ski boats are dual console. It's not a center console. It's a dual console, though the driver's seat is the right-hand side or the starboard side. And you always keep the diver or always keep the person in the water on your side, so you have the best visibility of them. So whatever turn I make, I keep them on my side, so I can always watch right where they are. And that's how I approach everybody. Like and for picking up trash, picking up balloons, and picking up whatever junk, like bring it down your side. If you're, my center console, the helm is a little bit closer to the starboard side for whatever reason. It feels like the controls are on the starboard side of the wheel, so everything happens on the starboard side. I can watch the trash. I can bring that trash right down my starboard gunnel and have somebody on the swim deck or whatever that can grab it. And I've been in neutral, and I'm just gliding up to it. It's there's no brakes on a boat. It's forward and reverse and neutral. That's all you got.
Yeah, and if you're going slow, you just put it in neutral. Nothing can happen really bad. I mean, if you're going fast and you put it in neutral, you could still smash into some stuff. So that's what I always say, like, go slow. I mean, we've had the experience of being in some really crappy conditions, and sometimes you do have to use more throttle to overcome the elements. But for the most normal people, you don't want to be in that shit anyways. So, you wouldn't be diving in it. Like, I've had the misfortune of diving in like Sea State, whatever it was, like high surf advisory, because like for some reason they thought we were cool and we needed to do that. But yeah, you learn a lot that way. And you never know when the weather might turn bad on you. But yeah, I agree, man. It's the same stuff. It's just keep an eye on the person the whole time. Yeah.
It's
interesting.
Yeah. You try not to dive in that junk, but I've fished in it, man. I fished on one, my buddy from Oceanside and I. It was so gnarly. We're trolling, you want to hit 6, 7, 8 knots, somewhere in there for your typical pelagics that you troll on the surface for. We're trolling like 7, 8 knots in a 25-foot center console. And it was so rough and so gnarly. We stood really at the back, nearly like, stern, and I was steering with the gaff, because it was the most like stable place to sit, or set. And we were just waiting and we hooked up some great Dorado that day. It was great fishing, but it was like, I don't know, 8 or 10, 12 footers. It was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
but
brutal.
you wouldn't want to dive in that if you could avoid it. And,
right.
and if somebody went overboard in that, you better have a plan, really, like if you're by yourself, use the tether. Like that's something that people don't think about, is tethering to the kill switch. And that's actually how my buddy Matt Suter got DQ'd. His son pulled the tether. He didn't even realize it. He pulled his tether, because nobody ever clips it to your body hardly at all. And he pulled his tether, and he couldn't get the motor to start, and they had to be towed back in. But it was just the tether. That's all it was.
I think everybody's been there.
Yeah, dude, I ran into somebody.
Get your buddy to come look at the boat. And
yeah, somebody
like,
at the dock the other day couldn't start
yeah.
it. They were like, I was like, hey, did you check your tether? And sure enough, but the tether's there for a reason. If you're going solo, if you're dumb enough, like I have been, to go out in crappy Sea State, wear your tether, wear a life preserver at all times. Just do it.
No, I agree. That's a good I think this is a good ending topic. It's important that it's funny. You needed a license for a boat or for a car. Now in California, you need to get a safety, which I think is great. But yeah, there's nobody out there to help you quickly is the thing I would say. So take care of each other and rather than be quick to judge, why don't you sit back and listen first, and then maybe we can figure out how to make things better, rather than just, say, oh, these guys are fucking idiots or whatever, like some people like to do. But anyways, I mean, it's really, I'm not saying that to anybody in particular. I'm just saying in general, I can imagine.
No, it happens.
The shit.
You're
Yeah.
like you said keyboard warrior, and this is exactly what it is. Like, I'm sure there's a way you could look up the conversation regarding the marine incident that I had, and there, oh, the guy is a freshwater guy. Oh, the guy is a, whatever. Like, as if I'm a complete buffoon, which is the furthest thing from the case. Like, I'm driving boats for Team USA divers. I'm driving boats for competitive, water skiing in hectic conditions with jam-packed lakes. And talk about Memorial Day is full-blown amateur hour.
Yeah.
People on the
Oh,
lake,
yeah.
man, it's crowded, it's nuts. And, I've pulled tubers and skiers and all kinds of stuff in these Midwestern lakes that are not nearly as many acres of surface area as the ocean.
Yeah, I'll be doing that on 4th of July actually in Indiana, which is funny. My wife asked me if my brother-in-law rented a boat, would I mind driving for him? And that's the
Yeah.
first thing I immediately thought of. I was like, uh, I imagine it's going to be a friggin' zoo, and there's all these kids, and everybody's going to be jumping on the bow, and
Yeah.
But it's true. You're right.
Yeah, dude, it can be super hectic, and you get a lot of good boatmanship from driving in those conditions. And luckily, I had a good teacher. My grandfather was a charter captain for a long time, and taught me to drive a boat early. And I taught my son to drive early. Like I told you on the phone, my son's 5, and he drives the boat pretty competently and handles it decently. And there's good cause for that. If I get incapacitated, he could drive or whatever. Like, I always encourage people to find someone and learn from them, and just be present, be plugged in. Don't just put your iPod in or your ears in, and just zone out. Like, pay attention. Where are we? Where are we going? What's our direction? What's our way home? Like, be a part of the whole experience.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you're not a charter, if you're not paying to someone to charter, this isn't like Brett Brett Leabel like charter company. Like, be a part of the team. Yeah.
No, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I guess I'll accept tips, but yeah, seriously, pay me when I fillet your fish. But at the same time, like, I'm not here for the same thing you are. Like, we're here to have fun together, and it's a team effort. It's a team sport. Let's pay attention. Let's realize that we have each other's lives in our hand at some kind of another. Like, heart attacks at my age are real. My advanced age of 42, I could have a heart attack. And, hopefully you know what I'm doing. You can help take care of me.
yeah, I think everybody has somebody around this age that they've been impacted by a heart attack.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It is wild because it just happens throughout this time. Um, so, Brett, how do people get in touch with you or find out more information about freshwater and all that stuff?
Yeah, the best place for freshwater information, if you're on Instagram, is National Freshwater Spearfishing Association. On Instagram, that's the full name. The website is National Freshwater Spearfishing Association.org. .org. We are an organization. And then Facebook, I think, is the same. If you guys want to DM me or call me up personally, at the real Brett Leabel. There's a lot of imposters out there. Make sure you go on Instagram at the real Brett Leabel. And I respond and hang out with everybody. Like, I'm happy to take anybody diving. I'm not going to tell you my spots. I'm not going to give you coordinates or numbers or nothing, but like, I'll dive with anybody. Like, we're a small community. At most, there's 5,000 people in the United States that spearfish. Like, we're really a lot smaller than we think about. And so DM me and hit me up. And if you're in Texas or Midwest or wherever, like, if I'm not there, I know somebody who is there, and we'd love to dive with you.
Cool. Well, thank you, Brett, for joining us, and thank you for sharing that incident. We kind of left off with some heavy stuff, but I think we had talked on the phone. When we talked on the phone, I didn't realize you were a part of that, and then you shared that with me, and I thought it's always good to kind of go back from case studies and lessons learned, and try to figure out, how to help prevent things and make it better. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. I know that probably wasn't the easiest day, but thank
No,
you.
it was insane, and I don't wish that on anybody. And I hope if anybody can get anything from this, is just like have a plan. Make sure you guys know how the GPS works. Make sure you know how to drive the boat. Make sure you know how the radio works. And it just came out of nowhere. Like, at the after action report, like what would you do differently? Man, I don't know. To this day, I have no idea what I could have done differently. The diver, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what he was doing. He's an experienced diver. I don't know how he ended up where he ended up. And I there's just no way to think about it, man, other than it could have been me. It realistically easily could have been me in the same situation. And if that's the case for anybody else out there, like, you got to trust who you're out with. You got to know that you're out with somebody who can take care of that in a situation like that and who can respond. And because there's no second chances, man. You get one life, you get one shot at it.
Wow, that's a good point to end on. Thanks again, Brett.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Brett. I appreciate two Bretts in one room having a talk about spearfishing.